Hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Greg McManus. I'm a sound designer, music producer, and educator. In this video, we're going to talk about an Instagram post that I made a little bit ago involving a weird bat creature that was summoned through some kind of like blood magic. And mostly in this video, we're not going to be talking about the blood magic. We're going to talk about the actual creature design. So before we jump into Reaper, let me go ahead and play that Instagram post for you. Awesome. So that was the Instagram post. Now, to quickly, add a disclaimer in here. I am not actively working on that game. I will leave a link down to those developers' Instagram page where I found their post of that visual from their game. This was just an unofficial kind of fan-made re-sound design that I did for it, as their original post had no audio to it. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead, jump into Reaper, and we can kind of break down how I created that creature sound. All right, so now that we are in Reaper, let's go ahead and check out the sound on its own. This will be just with everything included. The only thing that's not going to be included are going to be like the ambiances and wind, things like that in the background. So this is going to be all effects and every layer. All right, so there was that. There's a little bit of reverb on there. I can turn that off here. It's Convolution Reverb. And then there's also some pitch shifting that's happening on the group that I will turn off as well. And if we listen to that now, it's going to sound somewhat different. Cool. So there's that. Now, let's kind of dig through each layer individually, and we can kind of talk about thoughts as well as things that I actually did to them. So starting with this first layer here, this one was the very first one that I actually found and chose as well. It's also the first thought that I had about this. So when I first watched this clip of this creature, I knew immediately that I wanted something in its throat that made it kind of have a very plucky, maybe plucky is not the word, but very goat-like, that sort of bop, 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 bop kind of feeling to it, almost like a flap opening and closing rapidly in a throat, and it not being just like a steady tone. So I immediately sought out things that did that. One of the first things I did was go and look at a goat. You can see that layer is muted. There's some effects on it and stuff. That's why it sounds kind of distorted and whatnot. But yeah, not using that one, ended up not liking it. So instead, I found a crane. That's what this top layer is. Let's check it out. So as you can hear, that is like a big chunk of the sound. I made sure that that was the main focal point of this vocal, and yeah, I made sure that that was the most prominent layer because that was the main idea behind the vocal in the first place. Now, as far as effects go, we can check those out. Just doing some compression followed by EQing. I did this all very quick, mind you. So typically I would do my compression after EQing, but because of the nature of me doing this entire clip in like an hour, hour and a half, I did things just as they came to my mind. Now, following the EQ, I've got some Parallel Particles by Sheps. It's a Waves plugin. It's actually incredible. And essentially, it's just a saturator, I think, that it goes into different bands and things like that. So giving it some extra thickness and some bite as well there. So boom, there you go. And that's pretty much all that's happening on that layer. Actually, that's a lie. I do have some pitch modulation going all the way from an octave down to an octave up in this section, because this whole, you can see I've got markers here, right? So these are points of interest in my mind, right? So this ending one is where I want the sound to end. or at least fade out. This first marker is where I felt it was the best to have it sort of be the, I don't want to say the peak, but where it has fully developed, right? So it's gone from low to high intensity and mostly in pitch. As we dig through these layers, you'll notice that it's mostly in pitch as well. So now that's that top layer. That is the main layer. Everything else is there to support it and round out the entire vocal and get it to the intensity level that I imagined this would be at. So keep that in mind. Everything else is a supporting layer at this point. All right, now digging into the second layer here. This is another bird. There's quite a few birds throughout all of this, but this is another bird. We can take a listen to it just on its own here. So as you can see, it's a very angry sounding bird. It's got that kind of squaw, screechy almost feel to it. I mean, I literally chose it because it sounds angry and it sounds aggressive and there's good movement to it. The effects, nothing too insane going on here. Some basic just high pass EQing. That's it. And then some slight pitch shifting. So it's literally one semitone down. Now, this is, I guess, where I can mention this aspect of creature sound design. And it's I have learned a very, very important one to making a coherent and believable sounding creature. And it's honestly, once I learned this, it was a complete game changer. And that is to take your main layer, right? We just went over that one. That is this. Figure out the pitch, the main pitch of that sound, and pitch every sound that you then add to your creature to that one. Or just find a pitch. It doesn't even have to be to that main layer, right? You can always pitch your main layer as well. But have a pitch that you are pitching every layer to, right? So all I did to do that was when I brought in this main layer, I went to my EQ, and it has this particular one has this cool feature, but pretty much if you have a visual EQ like this and it shows you all like the peaks and stuff, then go in, look for the highest peak, hover your mouse over it, and typically they tell you what the note is like equal to on being on a keyboard, right? So, if you're here where my cursor is currently, this is an F3, but plus 7 cents, right? So it's a little bit above an F3. So do that, figure out the pitch every layer to that. And I promise you it will make your creature sound design, it literally will take it to the next level. It's amazing. So that's why that -1 semitone is on this layer, is because I needed to pitch it to the appropriate frequency or note. Yeah. So that's that layer. Pretty simple, right? Nothing too crazy going on there. It's a little bit quieter than the main layer. But other than that, yeah, that's it. So this third layer right here is a metal hinge. Oh gosh, I was trying to zoom into the text, but couldn't. So this is a metal hinge screechy layer. I think I stretched it out as well. And I also did not preserve its pitch. So when I stretched it, it became a lower pitch. So from here, once again, simple EQ, and I am pitching it to match the main layer, to match that main bird sound that I chose. So the pitch down brought it to a certain point, and then I took that point, that frequency, hit it with this, made it get to its new one. So, and here's this layer. Terrifying, I know. But it has that, once again, excellent screechy kind of a very aggressive tone to it. And I am very much a sound designer that when I choose sounds, I try to choose things that are very close to what I want them already to be. I don't like using a lot of effects unless I'm going for something that is very extremely otherworldly, or I mean, yeah, pretty much, like, unless I'm doing something very alien, very otherworldly, something that's not supposed to be necessarily completely relatable, then I don't really choose, I try not to use a lot of effects. So I try to find sounds that are already close to what I want them to be. So you'll notice that I don't use a lot of effects. Now, next layer, fourth layer, is a horn that's been blown out. Mind you, most of these sounds, I'll just say it right now, actually, I think every single one is from a Boom library. I love their stuff. It's so good. But yeah, it's all from Boom libraries. But let's check out this horn overblown layer right here. So there's that. Definitely has that. It's got a gritty tone. Once again, has that angry vibe to it. And yeah, it just kind of helped fill out some kind of like mid area and just add a nice grittiness to it. So effects, once again, not doing anything crazy. I could and should probably come in here on each of these layers and EQ them a little bit more, make space for different things. But like I said, hour and a half total on this entire project. So, you know, it was about like 30 minutes for the blood magic and then the rest on this creature. And then once again, I'm pitching it up to +6 semitones to match that main pitch. You'll notice that is a theme as I come through all these sounds. All right, next layer right here is another bird. It's a crow. I actually love crows. This is another crow right here. We can check that out. Now, it may not sound like a crow at all, but I'm probably doing some fairly extreme pitching. But I also wanted something very low at the beginning. I wanted this low pitch at the beginning, high pitch, like low to high pitch, basically, as far as like the flow of the overall sound. And so I'm working my layers in that regard. And then later on, when we get up to like the main group channel, you'll also see how I reinforce that even further. So low pitch to high pitch. So this sound, when I heard it, I knew that I could probably pitch it down and that would still probably sound pretty cool and kind of gurgly almost. And so that's what this layer is. And as you can see, I mean, this might as well be no EQing. I'm pretty sure I have this on here strictly to figure out what pitch it was. And then I pitched it down 1 semitone to get it in pitch, and then I wanted it lower, so I took it down a whole octave. And thus you get the crazy, low, weird sounding crow. Perfect. Actually, here, this is what it sounds like if I turn that off. And yes, crows do actually sound like that. They're wild, very interesting vocal animals. Sweet. So next layer, because remember, I'm not using this goat here. I didn't like it when I was making the sound. So next thing is a goat, though, but it's a scream of a goat, not the bah, thing. So this is a scream of a goat. And notice, too, I'm using the 100 kilohertz version. Very important, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, this layer is a low layer. And when you do that and you pitch something high down low, you want as much top-end information as possible, like high-frequency information, because all those frequencies get brought down as you pitch it. I could be very wrong here. Let's find out. I was not wrong. So, yeah. That is definitely sort of the beef, if you will, the beef of the sound. And it's very distorted, like to a high degree. It's very distorted. And that was to just make it aggressive. I mean, that is honestly that is honestly a very important thing to me, is whenever I'm making a creature or really any kind of sound, I want to have some type of emotion that I am aiming at, right? And so when it comes to a creature, it's have a main vocal quality, aka this top layer right here, that's the main vocal quality. Have a pitch that you aim at for each layer, and then have a tone or emotion that you're trying to go for. And in this case, I was like, aggression. It's just an easy one to land on pretty much. So I went with aggression. Everything had to aim towards that. And without the distortion, this layer just did not support that, in my opinion, after I pitched it down. So, but let's take a look at all this here. Once again, I'm pitching it down 2 octaves, 2.5 octaves, EQing 0. Once again, probably only defined what pitch I needed or like how much I needed to shift it to get it in pitch with the main layer. Then hitting it with a lot of this Shep's parallel particles here. So a lot of sub there, a lot of thickness. And then this is it. Yeah. I mean, this is full wet, sending it through trash. If any of you have ever used isotope trash, you know how aggressive this thing can be. And so, yeah, that's why this layer is so intense sounding on its own. Yeah, I mean, that's right there. That's isotope trash for you, pretty much. Like, it's like one of the most aggressive distortion plugins, at least that I know of. Anyway, moving on. Next, we've got a pig. It's in distress. Like right here, you can even read it's in distress, which is perfect. It's just going to add to that aggressive tone. A little bit more on the emotional side, because a pig being distressed is one of the most, it almost kind of like, at least to me, it almost like hurts, you know? I'm like, no, don't hurt the pig. Even though more than likely they're not hurting the pig, but the pig is freaking out about something. I don't know. To me, it's very intense sound, but I chose it because it fit the bill. It fit the bill for this. And there you go. It's just a nice sharp frequency. It caters to the flow that I was talking about before. Low to high, right? So this little beginning section right here is the low part, and then it goes high, squealy, screechy, screechy type of deal, right? So it matches the flow that I was going for anyway. So it just kind of ended up working out. And then here, rid of the low end, didn't need it there. And just +1 semitone, boom, easy. Easy layer. Easy layers, easy life. You know, that's my motto. I just made that up. Last layer here. Last layer. Glass being rubbed. As you can see, it says screech. And yeah, I think at this point, being on the last layer, you can understand the themes. Screechy, aggressive. That's boom. There you go. And effects, once again, this is an EQ literally to find the pitch, and then I pitch it. This one, I am pitching down 2 octaves and then another 3 semitones. That 3 semitones was probably to get it in pitch with the main layer, and then the 2 octaves to get it into the actual full deepness that I wanted it in. And so that layer on its own is this. And now if I turn the effects off and play it, that's it. There you go. There's each layer. And so as you can see, that layer being a low layer is also in the beginning, once again, low to high. And now you may be wondering why I also have this extreme low one here, not in the low section, but in the high section. And that's just because I needed to round out the sound. If I didn't have that there and I played every layer without that, it just sounds completely empty. Like, for instance, let's check it out. If I just turn off this beefy goat layer with a lot of distortion on it, and now play this, like, it just becomes very empty as soon as it gets to the top portion. You lose all of that kind of like any of the low end that some of these layers were providing in the beginning, gone. You need it. You need it there. You need it there. So now that we've gone through each layer and we kind of have a rough understanding of no EQ basically, followed by matching the pitch of the main layer, because notice all of these layers, all of these had pitch shifting done to them. This one did not. This one did not. And I also compressed this layer only because I wanted that one to be very still and very focal. Very easily noticeable. It stands out. It's right there in your face the entire time. That is why that one has compression. Now, let's talk about the main layer here. Few more effects going on. I'm just essentially monoed everything out and made sure that it was directly in the center. Hit it with some more actual EQing, got rid of some gnarly frequencies up in this range right here, and then and boosted some frequencies that I did like in those ranges. I wanted to pitch it down a little bit more. I thought it wasn't quite deep enough still. So I pitched the entire thing down 3 semitones, and then once again compressed it more. Really, there's not a lot of compression on it anyway up until this point, so just did some more compression, more saturation across some frequency spectrums, and then I limited it. I only boosted it just a little bit, 2.5 dB, pushed it into the limiter there. Now, one thing I did do is on this pitch VST, I did do some overall pitch shifting for the entire creature. And this to me is also something that's very important and really helps glue the entire creature together, right? So this blue line right here is the overall pitch shifting and pitch flow that I kind of chose for this. So you can see I have a steady rise, starts at -3 semitones, which is why that pitch shifting thing read -3. So then goes up to 0, goes up 1 right here in the center, down -2, back up to 0. So you get this rise followed by a fall, followed by kind of leveling out at the very end there. And to me, that is a very important thing to help just pull all of these layers together even more, right? So you match the pitch to the main layer. Every layer matches their pitch to your main vocal quality. Then on the entire group, then do more pitch shifting. Give it a flow, give it a movement, right? You can even do volumes and stuff like that. Anything to help it all become together as one voice, right? Remember, this is technically what? 8 voices. This is technically 8 different voices that we are trying to into one. We are trying to squish it all into one voice, and anything we can do to help make it go into one voice, the better. So matching pitches, pitching on the main group channel, compressing, overall EQing, all very good things to do to help bring your creature to life and make it believable. So with that being said, let's listen to the creature without the overall pitching, like the pitch flow, that blue line, and then we'll also bring that blue line in and listen to it with the overall pitching. So let's check this out without it. And now with it. And without. It's just a lot more emotive with this on, and you don't want to do necessarily big extremes with this either. When I first did this, I was in a big rush, and so I was like, I brought these way down, brought these way up, and it was like, and it just sounded really ridiculous. And so subtle semitone shifts goes a long way in this regard. So I hope you can see how powerful that portion is. And then the last thing I did, just to add a bit of dramatic nature, if you will, to this, was threw some convolution reverb on it at the very end. That's what this red line is right here. I'm just near the very end, I'm just cranking the convolution reverb up, and it just adds that bit of dramaticness, a bit of space to it, keeps it fairly dry in the beginning, and then whoosh at the very end gives it a nice spanking, I guess, of convolution reverb, if that's a way to put that. Anyway, let's check this out. And there you have it. There is the breakdown of the creature. This is a pretty long video. I'm pretty sure this video is about as long as it took me to make this thing. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully there was some insight into some creature development there, and you learned something. Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. Just remember, big takeaways. Find a focal main vocal quality that you want to have be like the quote unquote cool effect of the voice. Have a target pitch that you pitch every layer to. And then do group processing. Process it, do group volume, modulation, automation, do group pitch automation, things like that. They all go a very, very long way to making a creature believable and making it sound like it is one creature instead of it being 8 different sounds together. So there you have it. That was a slightly in-depth look at the creature sound that I made for that Instagram post. I hope you liked it. If you did, please let me know what you thought about that creature design down in the comments below. And also let me know if you created any creatures recently that you want to share. I'd love to hear them. Also, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. My name is Greg McManus. Thank you for watching.